This is amazing. Look at this. If you're gonna guard your border, do it in style, please.
Now, I'm in Italy. I'm in Tyrol. I'm on the border between, well, Germany, Austria, and Italy. What is interesting is on this border, over the past some 100+ years, a lot of interesting things happened. World War I, lots of fighting here in the Alps. World War II, not so much. However, in World War II, there was bunkers and fortifications constructed here. And I found that very strange, because Hitler and Mussolini were close allies. So why would Mussolini be building bunkers on the Italian side, facing the German side? I've come to investigate. Well, here's the rear of something quite large, with a huge steel door in it. It's a very large embrasure that can be disguised into the rock face. That is really cool. Those made by ropes and wires, and on the other side it looks exactly like the rock face. That's very cool. I am a big fan of what the Italians are doing here.
One of the most basic reasons for a country to have a military at all is to protect and defend its borders. Quite central to the very notion of any proper country, really. And throughout history, many countries have been each other's traditional sparring partners with regards to where their respective borders should be. One of the key factors as to how to best defend one's nation is where to make that stand. Its location. And what better location than a narrow mountain pass? The Alps, peaking beautifully as they are fierce obstacles for invading armies. Just ask Hannibal's elephants how they enjoyed that journey. For the better part of multiple centuries, Austria, Germany, and Italy have had countless alliances, enemies, more alliances, and so forth. For hundreds of years, Austria, Italy, and Germany/Prussia have been like three siblings fighting over their last slice of strudel, making up, then stealing each other's schnitzel instead. Their history is a chaotic dance of wars, betrayals, awkward alliances, with irony thicker than a Viennese coffeehouse debate. They are basically frenemies. History's bleeps such as the 30-Year War, the War of Spanish Succession, that thing about the Enlightenment squabbles, Napoleonic speed dating by everybody ending in disagreements, of the inevitable Franco-Prussian War, and before that the other Napoleon, the 6-Year War, and of course the strudel finally hit the rotating oscillation device when Italy flip-flopped and changed sides during World War I. And then flip-flopped the other way a few times in World War II as well. Basic lesson, regardless of what side of a war Italy starts, she somehow always lands on the winning side. And that brings us to this, one of history's great places of defense. And should I ever command an army in the defense, this is where I would like to place them, in a fortress at the end of a mountain tunnel. This was built between 1834 and 1840 by the Habsburg Empire to guard the Reschen Pass on the Tyrolean-Italian border, preventing incursions from the Italian side into Austria. It is a robust 5-story stone block structure integrated into the mountain slope, designed to provide flanking fire from two sides. It features rifle slits and cannon casemates facing the pass road. It was equipped with 8 M94 8cm casemate cannons, and it is simply gorgeous. But it never saw any battle, so it's intact. But that's not actually why we're here. We are going to drive a little further into Italy, past the sunken tower, to just where the mountain pass widens a little. In fact, should an invading army wish to invade Italy, can't say whom, this, or when that might happen, they would want to fan out right here. And years ago, I happened to take a walk here, and I saw something which really piqued my interest, because the valley and the mountains are full of bunkers, defenses, and fortifications built by Mussolini all the way up until 1942, and they are hidden extremely well. Now, the interesting thing about Mussolini building fortresses is that they were facing his ally, Germany. That raised for me a whole lot of questions, including about the amazing concealment of the firing ports here. Right here we are at 1,500 some meters altitude, and this is bunker number 20. And trust me, that name is misleading. All around us and above us, there are more than 60 structures in total, including Panzersperrs on top of the mountain above us. And yes, I'm quite well aware that opens up to a whole lot more questions. We'll get to those later. This was built as part of the Italian Alpine Wall, Vallo Alpino del Littorio, an extensive system of fortifications from the late 1930s intended to defend Italy's northern border against a potential German invasion following its Austrian annexation in 1938. Construction began in the late 1930s. The overall work was halted by late 1942 under some German pressure when Hitler called Mussolini and told him to knock it off, and they began resource realignment.
That in order to see any kind of fortification, we have to walk uphill. And well, we are in the Alps, so it's not like we would find anything at sea level.
Here at bunker number 20, which is 270 meters long, I would very much prefer to call this a fort or a fortress.
Again with the same camouflage, rear defense. It's a very large embrasure. I like this. There's also something up there, but we are set in the Alps, in the mountains, and if this is the front of this bunker, which has the same embrasure. But yeah, these would cover the valley completely, leaving me to imagine one on the other side as well. And here's the other one. This is very, very interesting. There's the next one. The bunker is completely built into the rock or camouflaged by it. I don't know if it's... I think this was a mixture to look like. This is not the actual rock, it's some cement mix. Here's a little bit of raw cement. Some idea that there's a bunker in here as well. It really gives you a good idea of the covering view and field of fire. It's very clever how they did this.
Now, fortunately, I found just the guy to tell us more about it.
This is the entrance to the tunnel complex built in here in the mountains. It's not a goulash cannon, it's a spaghetti cannon. And if you know the reference, you know, and if you don't know, I'll explain it to you in later episodes.
But the soldiers were here till 1992.
To 1992?
Mm-hmm. Because they actually take care of this museum. But you can see the camouflage. Das ist Camouflage. Das
Nein,
war...
das ist Beton, das ist Camouflage.
Das ist Beton wie als Camouflage,
Wenn
ne?
du gehst du da hinauf, kannst aufmachen. Can you open there?
Oh, okay.
So, first this side you can open. You can see. Ecco, ecco. I'm too small.
So that's the close defense?
Verteidigung, Eingang.
Oh, das hatte den... So this is original.
This is original, yeah.
I love this. I love the camouflage.
Nur Mussolini hat gebaut, aber dann später war dann normales Militär hier.
Ah, die normale, ja, ja.
Das ist der Bunker und dann gibt es noch Kaserne
Okay.
im Wald. Weil hier ist keine Heizung, hier ist keine Küche.
Klar,
nix.
klar. So the peacetime barracks were. Also Mussolini auf die Peacetime, die Kaserne gebaut?
Ja, alles.
Alles.
Das hat alles Mussolini gebaut. Und das Einzige, was neu ist, das ist hier, Elektro.
Ja, ja. Aber das sieht ungefähr aus wie.
Ja, das ist kein Problem. Aber das ist alles, das ist auch Beton.
Ja, ja.
Das ist kein Fliesen. Das ist Beton.
Das ist Beton.
Das ist alles Beton.
So you're running straight through the door and into the close defensive position. That's pointing right at you right here. And steel door, peephole, the exit, straight from the machine gun. You go straight in here. Of course, you have a non-linear sight into the actual bunker. This is blocked by this. So ist was gemacht wie ein Tunnel.
Das ist der Eingang. Das sind alles. 90% vom Bunker ist in Kaverne gegraben, herausgesprengt, Felsen. Das ist alles Felsen.
Okay.
Das ist Wasser,
Das ist Wasser.
Versorgung, Eternit. Und in Eternit ist Asbest.
Ja.
Und früher für die Soldaten war Trinkwasser und Gebrauchswasser. Alles hier drin.
The water supply for the soldiers in asbestos containers? Interesting. I know these are slightly post-war, but they look, something about cabling always looks good.
Achtung, Vorsicht.
And if you're going to learn something about military history, it has to be by a teacher who used to teach, which is why he can explain to me how everything worked here. Kaserne? So you're looking at to your right here is one of the big rooms. We have 10 meters of rock above us and 10 meters of rock to the side. To the right is where the fighting front was. All stone above us. Of course, the inside of the tunnels made in cement. That was later reinforced way after the Second World War. So this will actually intersect with the longest river in Italy, which is incredibly interesting because it actually connects. And I can hear the water run. That is really interesting.
Second door.
Ah,
Outside.
well, let's have a look at the other entrance. It is so interesting to hear the water run when you're inside a bunker. And I see a close defensive position, and what I really love is the fact that the toilets haven't changed since 1850, 1825. Bathrooms look the same, even without light.
From 1938 to 1942.
1938 to 1942. Und die Toilette sieht auch wie unter die Zeit von Napoleon.
Ja, ja.
That'll be the only bunker that's actually furnished by its own river. It's not its own river, but certainly it's connected to a river and it's still clean. You can still drink it and you can flush with the original water. I love it. I'm gonna have to try some of this. It's not as cold as ich hatte gedacht, es kalter war. It's not that cold.
So 6, 7 Grad.
6 Grad. You can drink the water. Again, second entrance. There's always more than one. Close protective wall here. And here was... The radio was sitting here. That is interesting. Warum war hier eine Funkstation hier? Bei Tür?
Bitte?
Warum eine Funkstation?
Das ist hier. Funkstation.
Aber warum?
Das ist die Tür.
So, das ist eine Funkstation hier und eine vorne Tür.
Ja, ja.
Ah. So there's a radio room here, so you can talk to the people standing outside.
Second door.
So, da war eine Funkstation da vorne. So mal,
Hier.
Hier.
Eine Funkstation und eine weiter vorne. Zeige ich dir.
ah, okay. So if you wanted to get in here, there was a soldier guarding the entrance. And here, certainly. And again, a protected entrance, steel door, a little radio here. And as it always is, and should be, when you have a defensive position, you also have a bathroom. And a double door.
Hier ist der Raum für Strom.
War hier Generator?
Das ist Strom.
Ah,
Das ist Original 1960. Vorher war kein Strom. Nach 1960,
so Zweiter
Das ist
Weltkrieg, kein
original.
Strom.
ja, und das ist hier neue Leitung.
Yeah. So during the time of service, when this was built in 38 to 42, you would be looking at gas lamps for lighting, batteries for the radios. No electricity was put in here until years after the war. I know what that is. This is a fighting position. So, ich weiß, was das ist.
Das ist Maschinengewehrstand.
Ja, mit Luft.
Draußen links ist Maschinengewehr.
Mit Luftung.
Das ist
This is the ventilation for the soldiers who were here. Because when the fighting department was filled up, the Italians did it differently than French or the Americans. They would have their soldiers wear masks with oxygen. They wouldn't ventilate the room. So ist das ungefähr korrekt?
Gasmask.
Yep.
1, 2, 3 soldiers inside.
Auch für Zweite Weltkrieg.
Ja,
So das ist Zweite Weltkrieg.
das ist alles Zweite Weltkrieg.
So, was war das hier? Das war eine...
Das Maschinengewehrstand.
Welche Maschinengewehr war das?
Zuerst war erste Maschinengewehr Fiat.
Der Fiat 43? Nee.
Weiß ich nicht. Danach war Breda 37.
Breda 37. So the Germans came here in 1943, and of course, Italy was the war per se. The war had just come to Italy in a different way. And when the locals here were showing the Germans all these bunkers that was built, the Germans laughed at them because they already knew they had mapped out everything Mussolini had built way in advance, as you would sort of expect. And here you can really see, you can see the valley below. It's still funny when you look at this. It looks like there's a little hill. There's flowers on it. There's cows grazing. And you don't really notice that inside there's cannons and machine guns covering your position. But of course, this was the narrow part of the valley, which made it easy to defend here. But this is the positions. Changed weapons a few times. Locked off. It is interesting with the ventilation that they would utilize here. Instead of ventilating the whole room, they would give their soldiers gas masks. And I always thought that was very strange.
Just a moment.
Ach so. Oh.
Here, and here is the schnapps.
The schnapps. So you had the schnapps locked away, as you should.
Wir haben Schnaps. Magst du hier auch einen Schnaps?
Doch,
Madame?
you can do with a schnapps, ja?
Ja, ja.
Okay.
So das originalische Zweite Weltkrieg-Schnaps?
Ah, nein, das ist kaputt.
Oh,
Die Becher ist kaputt.
die hat das alles.
Moment.
So we speak a lot about is the Tyroleans, Italians, Germans, but they do serve on their tests
Prost.
here. Prost,
Cheers.
Schnaps und Käse. This is very good.
Der Schnaps von den italienischen Soldaten, das war ein Cognac, sehr guter Cognac. Das war der Cordiale,
Cordiale.
ausgezeichneter Cognac. In Plastikbrief
Aha.
immer Cognac.
Natürlich.
Das Blättrum,
Für die Offizial.
nein,
Offiziali.
für die Soldaten. Das
Für die
ist-
Soldaten.
Wir haben hier Blättrum gemacht.
Ah. So these are the soldiers' beds. Wie viele Soldaten war hier?
Bunker war vorgesehen für 50 Soldaten, Maximum 20 Soldaten waren hier.
Maximum 20, aber könnte 50.
Der Bunker ist 250 Meter lang, alle Gänge, und 450 Quadratmeter groß.
450 square meters and 210 meters long. So you had 50 people could be here, 15 watts.
Das ist so Bettroom, das ist so das Bett.
Das ist ein deutsches
Das ist ein
Erster
deutscher
Weltkrieg.
Helm, ja.
Erster Weltkrieg.
Ja.
Das ist
Und
German
da drüben
War.
haben wir italienischen Helm. Vom deutschen Helm
Ja.
und italienischen Helm.
Aber die italienische Helm hat sich selbst verloren.
Nein, nein. ist-
Oh, so da.
Hier.
So here's the German helmet, well, one helmet on the bunk in here. And of course, little ammunition, because who doesn't want to sleep with a little ammunition in your room? That's just a...
Hier ist der italienische Helm. Hier.
That's the Italian helmet, there you go. So we need to get the German dude a backpack. So die Soldaten waren hier nur für Dienst und dann
Nur für Dienst.
und dann Kaserne für Schlafen und
Ja,
Leben.
Nein, schlafen auch hier.
Ah, schlafen auch
Der
hier.
Dienst hatte eine Woche schlafen auch hier.
Ah, now this looks
Das ist
different.
der Stacheldraht um ganze Bunkergelände herum.
Of course. Und das ist halt italienisch, typisch
Das ist italienisch, ja.
Ja, das ist interessant. So,
Das ist italienische Militär.
Minen auch?
Hier nicht, nein.
So, what's interesting is that obviously this bunker was surrounded by barbed wire on poles. These are the poles that are just slightly different than the German and French. We're so used to seeing the pigtails, especially from the First World War, where these were everywhere. These had a bend to them.
Das ist alles neu. Und hier ist auch das Wasser von der Edge. Da unten. Da kannst du 3 Treppen hinaufgehen bis ganz oben.
This is the water from the river?
Das ist der Water of the River.
This is the water. You see that?
ja.
Gotta see this. How many bunkers get their own river water connection? This is exceptionally awesome.
You can open and then close.
What's up here?
Then you can go up.
Okay, okay. So this is where the river is. So let's go see what's up here. I'm guessing since we're going up through the 10 meters of rock, there would almost have to be, I don't know, observation. Because one thing I've learned from visiting a few of these bunkers and their underground complexes, they're full of stairs. The Italians and their bunkers were very fond of stairs. Not entirely clear on why that is, but here we are. Like I said, the Italians are very fond of staircases. This is not observation, it's a firing position. So you can manually ventilate the soldiers' rooms. A peephole. And here's again the firing position. This, I can tell, overlooks the path outside. There's a path, of course, running behind the bunker, so you couldn't get above it or around it. If the soldiers came from the mountains, they would be coming down this path, and you could fire upon them from here. And I mean, let's face it, this was constructed against the Germans, or Austro-Hungarians, well, Austrians, against the Austrians, as you could say. Nicely cemented firing position, but not reinforced with rebar, which is actually quite strange. Connections for and masts for the soldiers. Alright. And this would be from munition stores. I wonder if there was ventilation that ran throughout the bunker of the time of the war. I mean, you would think there would be, but there might not have been, which means they were ventilating the fighting positions, but not the bunker itself. That's rather strange, to be honest. See? Italians love staircases. It almost feels like we went up higher than 10 meters, I will say. There must almost be an elevation above us, but it's stone and rock, so it was doable. Here's back to the well coming from the river here. Noch eine? Noch eine here?
Here is the cheese room.
Well, okay. You had me at the cheese room. 210 meters long. You have a cheese room of aging cheeses.
Alles. Du kannst nach oben gehen und dann ist Bunker fertig.
Wie gesagt,
Kannst dann aufgehen.
when I told you Italians and stairs.
Kannst du noch weitergehen und dann musst du automatisch hier runter. Ich
Okay.
warte hier runter.
Okay. Another fighting position. Ooh, it's tight. Another fighting position. Overlooking the valley. With a message for the men. Affoutage for the gun. That's what here was. Now occupied by spiders that's defending to roll from anybody. Another level. There's quite a lot of levels in these. And they're all occupied by a gigantic amount of staircases. So the whole bunker is built in elevations from higher to lower with about 2 meters of difference, which means the area here is ventilating naturally because of the elevations. Now the air here is ventilating naturally due to the various elevations, and I can feel I'm walking down somewhat of a slope. And that's how this construction worked and would ventilate itself naturally. So you only really needed ventilation for the firing positions, which the men had to deal with on their own up there, which was very interesting. So it is fairly small, but with all the firing positions, there's a lot of it. And see, here is a little bend in the floor, this being the lowest part. And then from here, it goes up again. Now there's an entrance exit to the right and one forward up. And behind me, everything is either quarters for the men or fighting positions. Most of them, of course, facing the valley. This being the single largest room here. I still really dig the running water. And of course, for the time of the Cold War, this was also used by the Italian military. But the fighting positions didn't change. The ventilation system didn't change. That was World War II. They had mules.
Oh, wow. Like in Portugal.
Yes. So the mules are great in the mountains, better than horses, and that's very true. I just find it absolutely hilarious that they built the anti-tank weapons up in the mountains, 2,000 meters up, where there's no roads. Where? So, wo ist die... Ah, hier ist das. So here from the entrance, you go here, and here is going to be a close defensive position. It is up here. You can see things. Probably bats in the winter, and certainly spiders. This is the smallest caponnier in the world. I don't think we can call it a caponnier, but I'm gonna go with it anyway because I like those. Here you can see who's coming to the entrance. And yes, there's a spider in my hair. Hey buddy, you can actually see all the way around. Very neat. This is a cool little position. A little round here. You can see who's coming around you. Very nice. And here you'll see the light canal, where you would have light signaling that would only and could only be seen on the other side. So right over there in that specific direction, in that specific direction, somebody must be sitting who can see this tunnel and only this tunnel. This was like the French did in World War I, and the forts outside Verdun, they would communicate with light tunnels. This is very interesting. I thought that is what I saw. And you see the stone, it's original, but you see the camouflage on the outside of it.
Das ist alles noch Bunker 20.
Give you an idea what might be hiding in here.
Das ist so Zement und Camouflage.
And there you can actually see the bunkers, inner. You can see the camouflage cladding the bunker, the cement. And there's so many different types of camouflage. This is one that struck me as extremely original. And what's original is that it's still here after so many years. See how big the doors are. They'll operate these from the inside with a pulley system. And a little barbed wire, so the idiotic tourists don't crawl in here.
Und hier komme ich einen Morgen, alles geschlossen.
Uh-huh.
Und da drinnen hat jemand, Frau oder Mann, gekackt.
Ah.
Ich gehe nach Hause, schaufel und werfe alles weg. Jetzt habe ich hier Stacheldraht, jetzt geht niemand mehr rein.
And I'm not going to tell you why the barbed wire is here, because it's very sad. This is the very end,
That's the very end.
where the very firing position is hiding up there. You can just barely see the wall. Here you have the two rivers, one flowing to the Black Sea and one flows to the Adriatic. But you can also see here why this is where you want to defend from. And this is why you're here. There's in this little area guarding this pass, you have 9 bunkers. Most of them unfortunately covered up. You're actually looking at one right there, except for the trees. And over here, where you see the construction cranes, it's another we're going to have a look at. But you can clearly see how you can bottle up a road right here. You have a couple machine guns on each side. Well, actually, considering you have a lot of bunkers and a lot of machine guns and probably some anti-tank weapons down here, you get what you see. To me, what is so fascinating is that behind us here, of course there was anti-tank spear, Panzer spear sitting down here, but there was also Panzer spear way up here in the mountains where there were no roads, and tanks are well known for climb 2,000 meter up mountains. Why they were there? Well, somebody had an idea and they're still there today. It's not crooked, it's a little crooked.
Yes.
Actually, kind of really interesting. So here on the other side, you begin to see some of the infrastructure. Here's a little reinforced military hut, still in the right colors of the Italian military. But most of all of these other bunkers are gone, covered up. Really sad, since they're very large. On the other side of the valley floor, the only thing I could find was this military building. But here behind me in the hills, there are bunker number 8 is here of the 9 somewhere, covered up under lots of stone. It was a shame we can't see this one, because back here is the largest bunker of the system. But of course they did everything they could to cover them up, so people like me can't find them. Doing here. Still don't know why, but I'm a big fan of this. Just look at that. That is very, very cool. So there's a tunnel somewhere
And if this is the kind of disguise I'm looking for, it might take me some time to find it.
Alright, now we have to talk about the Panzerspeer. They were placed over 2,000 meters altitude. Looking at a string of tanked obstacles on an alpine top makes me wonder if this was the last revenge of Cordona rising from his grave with one last bad idea. However, there's actually some logic to this seeming madness. The Reche Pass, where we were, is one of the very few low-gradient alpine passes that could possibly allow for armored vehicles to traffic from Austria into Italy. Although steep, military planners did fear that German panzer forces might attempt a surprise maneuver via the mountain roads or paths, using engineers to widen or reinforce these tracks. This was not unprecedented. Germany had achieved surprising feats like this during the 1940s blitzkrieg into France. And if we look at Italy's concept of their own for armored warfare and their smaller, lighter tanks, which were very much capable and designed for traversing mountain roads, it may also have influenced this by local Italian thinking. And the Plymouth Plateau sits above the main road to Reche Pass. If enemy forces captured this, they would be able to fire down onto the road and bunkers from above. It would be a serious tactical problem. The Italians wanted to prevent not just tanks, but also a combined arms group from reaching high ground, obviously. Now, the Valle Alpino was just not a military line. It was a political statement. In a time where every other great power in Europe was building fortified lines against their neighbors, Mussolini was not going to match out. And they built these quite rapidly in 1938 after Germany had moved into Austria, just to show that they could and would protect themselves, especially from the occasional betrayal that would happen from friendly powers in those days. The Italian Alpine forts are truly amazing, and some of these constructions are quite worthy of their Italian ancestors, and I look forward to visiting a lot more of these, and then the French, just to show you the difference. And given their remoteness, none of them have been vandalized and could possibly even be put back into use should the EU begin a new level of overreach. See you in the next one. I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel, liking, follows, and maybe even join me on Patreon to help out. I am just a guy, a historian, traveling around all these historic places in Europe on my own dime, trying to bring them to you.